This month of June marks the 32nd demise anniversary of Imam Khomeini, the late founder of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The charismatic leader was revered in Iran and across the world, including in African countries. Now, the incarcerated leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, Sheikh Ibrahim Zakzaki, says the thoughts of Imam Khomeini have remained relevant even after his demise.
And the source before this world is the thought of Imam Khomeini. Imam Khomeini is alive because his thoughts are very relevant to this time.
Hello and a warm welcome to this week's edition of Africa Today. I'm your presenter Mubarak Kenya. Today we are focusing on the impact of the thoughts of Imam Khomeini in Africa and how he inspired African nations in their struggle against apartheid and neocolonialism. So join us as our experts give us an incisive analysis on this subject. And as you watch our show, keep your comments coming through our social media handle.
Imam Khomeini in Africa. One of the stated goals of the Islamic Revolution of Iran, led by Imam Khomeini in 1979, was to fight against racism and to support people of color. Imam Khomeini fulfilled his promise immediately after the victory of the Islamic Revolution when he issued an order to cut off Iran's ties with the apartheid regime in South Africa. This decision inspired the struggle for freedom and emancipation in South Africa. After his release from prison, the late Nelson Mandela traveled to Iran 2 times, and in both trips, he met with the leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Khamenei.
My leader, how are you? Well, it's an honor and a real pleasure for me to meet you.
Now, during his first visit to Iran in 1992, Nelson Mandela emphasized that Imam Khomeini was a source of inspiration for the South African people in their anti-apartheid activities. The leader of the Islamic Revolution recalls here on what transpired during his meeting with Mandela.
این آقای نلسون ماندلا که از زندان آزاد شده بود، من اینجا تو همین اتاق، همینجا که شما نشستید، قبل از اینکه رئیس جمهور بشه، آمد اینجا نشستیم. من براش ماجرای امام رو شرح دادم، مبارزه امام رو. گفتم مبارزه امام اینجوری بود، از تیر و تفنگ و کودتا و اینا استفاده نکرد، به مردم عرضه کرد، دل مردم رو قانع کرد، مردم با تن خودشون آمدن تو خیابان. هیچ رژیمی نمیتونه با مردمی که با تن خودشون شجاعانه میان توی خیابان مقابله کنه. و پیروز فهمیدم که تأثیر کرد در دلش. از اینجا که رفت ماندلا، تظاهرات خیابانی آفریقای جنوبی راه افتاد، ادامه پیدا کرد تا وقتی که رژیم آپارتاید رو ساقط کردن.
Now, for more on how Imam Khomeini inspired the people of Africa, we are joined here by Ms. Suhaila Ibrahim Zakzaki, the daughter of Sheikh Ibrahim Zakzaki, the leader of the Islamic movement of Nigeria. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Also with us here today is Said Husseini, the director of Islamic Center for Africa. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
It's a pleasure.
So let's start off with Ms. Suhaila Zakzaki. Now, can you first tell us about your personal acquaintance with the thoughts of Imam Khomeini?
The Imam, primarily with how we view the Imam, is a very, as someone that is a role model and an example for us for what an Islamic struggle looks like, a struggle to bring about an Islamic system looks like. Imam was probably one of the only actually example of that actually achieved success, because while there is many other who had Islamic revolutionary views and whatnot, with the revolution of Iran, that was the first time that we saw in this world a success of such thing in our time today, right? So Imam was that kind of is that kind of example for us to this day, and especially with his emphasis on Islam and politics, and the fact that those are not two separate things, and also Islam in many other aspects of life, like economics and other aspects of life, government and everything.
Thank you very much, Ms. Suhaila Zakzaki, for that.
The starting point of Imam Khomeini's proximity to the people of Africa after the victory of the 1979 Islamic Revolution was his decision to cut off Iran's ties with the apartheid regime in South Africa. This has been touted one of the Imam's strategic decisions made even before the victory of the revolution. Imam had already said, if the revolution attains victory, we will ties with the apartheid regime in South Africa. The grandson of Imam Khomeini explains here on Imam's move to cut ties with the South African apartheid regime.
در اولین روزهای پس از پیروزی انقلاب هم این اتفاق افتاد و دولت انقلابی ایران با اخراج سرکنسول آفریقای جنوبی آپارتاید در اون روزگار تمام پیوندهای سیاسی، اقتصادی و نظامی خودش رو با رژیم آپارتاید قطع کرد و به حمایت همه جانبه از مبارزات بر حق شما برخاست. این از افتخارات انقلاب و نظام جمهوری اسلامی است و یادم هست که همواره نلسون ماندلا به این مطلب تأکید داشت و از او به نیکی یاد میکرد.
Now, Mr. Husseini, as we know, immediately after the victory of the Islamic Revolution, Imam Khomeini ordered the cutting of ties between Iran and South African apartheid regime. Now, how did this move inspire the liberation movements in that country?
I was speaking to icons of a struggle in South Africa. I was speaking to Nelson Mandela himself. He was saying to me that when the Islamic Revolution in Iran was happening, we actually had all of our hopes lost before that. We were thinking it will be impossible for us to deal with the apartheid state. This state is not going to dim, and this state is not going to go away. We were thinking about other ways how to cope and all of that. But when the victory of Islamic Revolution happened, we said, if it is possible for Iranian to remove a regime which was 2,500 years rooted, we also in South Africa, we will be able to do the same to apartheid regime.
Mr. Husseini, they are the director of Islamic Center for Africa. Stay tuned for more.
The Islamic Revolution of Iran under the leadership of Imam Khomeini created tremendous change for women. Iranian women are free to participate in various social, political, educational, and economic activities in conformity with Islamic tenets. One such recent example is Zahra Nemati, an Iranian female Paralympic and Olympic archer. She is now recognized as one of the most inspiring women in the world, winning the 2021 International Women's Day Recognition Award.
We have our own culture and specific dress codes and cannot abandon it because we believe in it. Me and my fellow female athletes prove that we can take part in world sports events with our special dress code and win medals.
The progress made by women in Iran has inspired Muslim women from other parts of the world. In Nigeria recently, an 8-month pregnant woman won a gold medal. Now she took part in the competition wearing the Islamic hijab. Now, Ms. Suhaila Zakzaki, how have Imam Khomeini's viewpoints on women in Islam contributed to the awakening of Muslim women in Africa?
Imam's revolution and the fact that he emphasized on the role of women in society in the Islamic Revolution, subsequently in building the country when the revolution succeeded, and in his many writings about Muslim women's role in public society in Islam, that has directly affected a lot of people, I believe, throughout the continent, and definitely in some even ways may have affected others indirectly. But I believe that is definitely a very great contribution to the idea that Muslim women should participate in public Islamic life as well, not just pray and pay attention to their relationship with God and not have any say in anything or even speak, let's say, about Islamic matters, which was a prevalent thought before that. And I believe that to this day that is the case, that Imam's views on women is still influencing a lot of people throughout Africa.
Thank you, Ms. Suhaila Zakzaki, for that. Now we shall take a short break, and when we come back, we shall continue with our discussion on the impact of Imam Khomeini's thoughts in Africa. Stay with us.
Imam Khomeini in Africa.
Imam Khomeini's message resonated well with Africans who are inspired by his firm stand against arrogant powers and unflinching support for the oppressed and downtrodden nations. An African Muslim scholar explains here on how Imam Khomeini inspired African nations. Let's take a listen.
Imam Khomeini, his relationship with Africa was on the basis of humanity, that an African person is a human being like other human beings. He came with a very important terminology when he was talking to Africans and to other people about Africa by introducing a word, al-mustad'af, which this particular terminology was almost forgotten. Even though the Holy Quran in Surah Al-Qasas says clearly, وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. We want to make those people who are deprived on the land, to make them ai*imma, leaders. Imam Khomeini rahmatullahi alayhi came with this particular terminology to say that if you look at the world today, you will see two types of people. There are those who are oppressors and those who are oppressed. And oppressed are mustad'af. So he was talking to people of Africa and other parts of the world as mustad'af, to tell them that, remember, Allah in the Holy Quran will want to make you as leaders, so wake up.
Well, Mr. Hosseini, African people are currently engaged in the struggle against yesterday's colonialists who are today's neocolonialists. Now, how can the ideas and thoughts of Imam Khomeini be useful in this regard?
Imam Khomeini rahmatullah alayhi taught the Iranian nation how to fight against Shah regime. If the people of Africa also take their lessons from Imam Khomeini, I think they are going to be more determined in their struggle against the new colonialism which is taking over Africa in all over the show. And that is the sense of independence, being themselves, studying more, in extending their education, thinking about their destiny, and lean on their own capacity and their capabilities and their financial abilities, and work for their own nation. Don't allow other people to interfere in their affairs. I think these are the principles that Imam Khomeini rahmatullah alayhi managed to teach the Iranian nation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hosseini, for that insight.
The African continent has the natural resources and commercial power to become the richest continent in the world. But oppression, bribery, and exploitation by the Western powers hinder its development. Neocolonialism is no doubt the number one problem to Africa's economic development. While it is true that African countries gained independence from the imperialist Western countries, but neocolonialism remains a major challenge.
Now, Ms. Suhaila Zakzaki, as an African, what lessons do you think African nations can get from Imam Khomeini in combating neocolonialism?
Well, the Islamic Revolution in Iran, I would say, is in a way almost parallel to the struggle against neocolonialism, considering at the time, let's say, the Shah in Iran, while an Iranian ruler over Iranian people, was heavily influenced by people from outside who wanted to benefit from that kind of influence and control over the Shah to their benefits, which is no different than what we see currently throughout the continent today. It's no different from that. It is pretty much exactly what neocolonialism is and what we are living through, what is our reality today. And so in the approach that Imam had to that, to standing up against that kind of system, I believe that we have a lot to learn from that, and we do look to that as an example in so many ways. Even with the Islamic movement in Nigeria, I believe we look to that heavily as an example and an inspiration.
Now, Mr. Husseini, we have heard there Ms. Suhaila Zakzaki talking about how Imam Khomeini inspired the Islamic movement in Nigeria. Now, can you briefly elaborate on Imam Khomeini's role in the awakening and unity of Muslims in Africa?
Imam Khomeini, right from beginning, was that we are not Shias, not Sunnis, we are Muslims, we are striving toward Islamic revolution, Islamic Republic, and for us, we should not fight amongst each other. The Shias are the brothers of the Sunnis, and the Sunnis are the Shia brothers. So those people who had access to the teachings of Imam Khomeini, rahmatullah alayh, they are those people who has listened to his advice, and today they are the supporters of Islamic revolution. And alhamdulillah, we're enjoying the support of so many Muslim brothers across the globe. The Sunnis are backing the Shias are backing the Sunnis.
Thank you very much for your time and insight, Said Husseini, the director of the Islamic Center for Africa.
The Islamic Republic of Iran has been involved in many humanitarian activities across Africa, including setting up colleges and universities, medical clinics, and agricultural projects which directly benefit the masses. One such project is the Iran Clinic in Ghana's capital, Accra. Speaking during the inauguration of the refurbished clinic, the country's vice president lauded the contributions of the Iranian government to the health sector of Ghana.
The Iran Clinic has got a long history in Ghana, and it is really one of the benefits and the lasting benefits, I hope, of this close relationship between the government and people of Iran and the government and people of Ghana. And I think that what we are seeing here in the Iran Clinic, 300 patients at least every day come through here. Every day, at least 300 patients. And this is why it comes up to close to 100,000 every year. That is a huge contribution to healthcare in Ghana that the Red Crescent, Iranian Red Crescent is providing. Huge contribution.
Students, let me say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. The essence of coming here this morning to interact with you, much has been said by your head teacher. And the issue here this morning is that my ministry, that is the Ministry of Inner City and Zongo Development, is in collaboration with the Iran Clinic to help bring medical attention to your doorsteps.
Iran's development projects in Africa were one of the topics during a roundtable held in Uganda last year to discuss Imam Khomeini's impact on Africa. Let's take a listen to one of the participants.
We are seeing schools, universities opened in African capitals. They were not there before the revolution. A country like Iran giving support, and it was very wealthy by then, giving support to other countries like it is doing now, it was not there. I've said politically it stood with the Africans against racism in South Africa. We have seen, even politically, opening embassies. All these embassies we're seeing in Africa were not there before the revolution. When this revolution came and they wanted to know more about problems of the African communities, African countries, all these embassies were opened so that they interact with the populations, get how we can exchange, cultural exchange, commerce, and political integration.
Now, Ms. Suhaila Zakzaki, how have the thoughts of Imam Khomeini contributed to the progress of Muslims in Nigeria?
Especially when the Islamic Revolution succeeded, this brought about a kind of, in some cases very directly, like I can say, for example, in the Islamic movement and for other people as well, but also in some cases very indirectly, that people are much more, I believe, comfortable with comfortably expressing interest in an Islamic system, potentially in Islam, not just as a private thing for people, for individuals, and also for Islam even in a political sense and other things. And I think that has had a great effect on Nigeria, especially when we look at the Islamic movement, which is heavily influenced by Imam and the Imam's revolution and the Imam's writings and the Imam's thoughts and everything, and his whole life entirely, basically.
Imam Khomeini had unique leadership qualities which endeared him to the masses in Iran and across the world. He introduced himself as the servant of the people and considered the people a source of blessing. The Imam was a serious supporter of the poor and the oppressed, and he forcefully and bitterly rejected economic inequality and aristocracy. In one of his previous speeches, the leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria says the world needs to emulate Imam Khomeini, as he was a unique leader.
Some people think that just as we have Imam Khomeini in Iran, other Muslim countries should have their own Khomeini-type leader. I heard someone was saying they need their own Khomeini. And he once was saying even that they need Khomeinis. Look, the whole world, the entire world needs only one Khomeini, and it has one. What it remains for the world is to follow the teaching of Imam Khomeini. We cannot talk of Imam Khomeini being a former leader or an older leader. He's still the leader, and alhamdulillah, he has got a successor in the person of Sayyid Ali Khamenei, Hafizahullah, where the teaching of the Imam continue as if it is the Imam himself is alive.
Well, that wraps it up for this week's edition of Africa Today, and it's been great having you with us. Tell us what you think about our show by dropping us a line through our social media handle. And on behalf of my colleagues here at Africa Today, thanks for watching and goodbye for now.